Hello, everyone, and welcome. Whether you are joining me live today or whether you are watching the replay, you are very welcome. And today we are having a webinar on gut health and microbiome and asking the question, could your gut be telling you more than you realize? For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Rachel Kreider and I am an award-winning gut health nutrition coach. And I help busy people who are bloated, feeling uncomfortable, tired, frustrated with their gut health to understand what's going on and to take practical steps to feel better. I've worked with over 350 clients around the world over the last 3 years. But for me, this business is so much more than nutrition. My mission is to change the way that digestive health is taken seriously and understood. Too many people are suffering in silence and being told that their symptoms are something they have to live with, and I want to change that. I want to be the person who helps people find answers, understand their bodies, and get their quality of life back. And that's really why I wanted to do this webinar today. There's so much information out there about gut health. Probiotics, prebiotics, fermented foods, supplements, the gut-brain connection, and it can literally feel incredibly confusing. My aim today is to cut through some of that noise and explain what we know about the microbiome and give you some practical things that you can take away and use. So let's get started. When it comes to health, we often worry about genetics, but the balance of the bacteria in your gut can have just as much impact, if not more so, than your genetics on your health. And your gut and your microbiome are as unique as your fingerprint. No one else has your exact mix of bacteria, your health history, your nutrition, hormone balance, or the same lifestyle as you. And that's why symptoms are so unique. And your gut needs a personalized support approach, not generic. So, what exactly is the microbiome? Your microbiome is the community of trillions of microorganisms, mostly bacteria, and 38 trillion live in your gut. They help you digest food, regulate your immune system, produce vitamins, support your gut lining, and even influence your mood and your energy. And everyone's microbiome is different. And it's shaped by your diet, your stress, your birth, your sleep, your hormones, your medication, and your lifestyle. And it's a living ecosystem that constantly responds to how you live. And I love this slide because we can see how microbiome changes as we go through life. So between birth and early life, your microbiome begins forming the moment you're born. And that can be influenced by your birth mode, whether that's a natural birth or a C-section, breastfeeding or not, skin contact, and early environment shape that first wave of bacteria, and especially which becomes a dominant in infancy. Between toddler and childhood, once solid food arrives, diversity increases rapidly. Diet becomes the biggest overall driver in terms of fiber, plant foods, exposure to new foods, and that all helps build resilience along with playing in the playgrounds and in the dirt. And children's microbiomes are highly sensitive to antibiotics, illness, and stress. Over the teenage years, puberty changes everything, including the gut. Hormones affect gut motility. That's how food moves through your digestive system. Sleep and stress have a big impact on gut reactivity, and changes in diet create fluctuations in bacteria that are linked to mood, skin, digestion, and we've all seen that. Adulthood between the years of 25 and 40 is when the microbiome is at its most diverse and it stabilizes, but it's responsive. Stress can have a huge impact on your gut motility, the food moving through, inflammation, and then we're also dealing with medications, alcohol, fiber intake, and movement. They can all influence the balance during these years of your life. And that's why people often start noticing bloating, fatigue, and food sensitivities for the first time. Over 40, hormonal changes start happening and they alter the gut motility again, and they can speed it up or they can slow it down. They can also influence changes in body shape. So even though you go to the gym and you eat healthily, you might notice that your body shape is changing and you're gaining weight, and it can be down to your microbiome. You might also suffer increased sensitivity to stress, and we see a change in bacterial balance as a result of that. Drops in estrogen for women and testosterone for men can reduce the diversity in our gut, and we can experience more digestive symptoms. Later in life, diversity in your microbiome naturally declines. And then there's also issues with lower appetite, less fiber intake, less movement, and they all combine to have lower levels of key bacteria in the gut, and that can affect immunity, digestion, energy, and health at that stage. But focusing on healthy diet, movement, and even social connection can be the crucial protective factors for gut health. And what are the key bacteria? So we've looked at how microbiome changes as we age and evolve from birth to old age. But if we zoom in on the actual bacteria themselves, these are the key genera or families of bacteria that play the biggest roles in your digestion, inflammation, energy, and overall gut comfort. I'm going to go through a few of these here. There are 14 on the screen, but when we test 51 of these. So the first one is lactobacillus. And this is responsible for your gut comfort, inflammation, and stool consistency. If it's too low, the gut loses one of its main calming and protective bacteria, and that can trigger IBS. Your gut is more reactive, and then your stools can switch between constipation and loose stools. And then we have bifidobacterium, and this one is responsible for your digestion, fiber breakdown, and if it's too low, you can have constipation, bloating, low energy, and poor blood sugar control, where you notice that your energy drops during the day, and where you have cravings where you might feel they're a bit out of control and you're blaming your willpower, but it can actually be as a result of not having enough of this particular bacteria. And then we have Faecalibacterium. And this one is an anti-inflammatory powerhouse. It's responsible for your energy and your gut lining. And if it's too low, you can have IBS, bloating, and low resilience to stress as well. And then we have Akkermansia, and that is for your gut barrier and your metabolism as well. It's responsible for helping to keep you slim naturally. So if that's too low, you might have issues with weight gain and keeping your weight balanced. You might have issues with those blood sugar control issues as well. And then you may have low gut barrier issues as well. Then we have Rheumococcus. So this one is responsible for fiber breakdown and digestion. If that's too low, it can lead to bloating and constipation. And then we have Clostridioides. Bacteroids even. So bacteroids are responsible for our protein and fat digestion and breakdown as well. And I've seen this a lot recently where people are struggling to break down the fat or the protein in their diet. And it's because they're missing a lot of these key bacteria. And it's leading down to poor digestion and some of those bloating and constipation symptoms. We also have Sottarella, and this one is an interesting one because it's connected to gut inflammation, but also histamine issues as well. And when that is too high, we're going to see things like bloating, gas, food sensitivities, and then histamine issues as well. So things like rashes, sneezing, and itching can all come as a result of having too much of this bacteria in your gut. So each one of these genera has an optimal range. Some should be quite abundant in the gut and some should be less so. It's about having the balance for the right goals in your microbiome. The connection with symptoms. So being aware of the key genera gives us the map, but the real insight comes from how these bacteria influence your symptoms. Your bloating, your bowel habits, your inflammation, or energy, we can connect the dots between those symptoms and the bacteria. 50% of us will suffer with bloating every year. It's one of the most common gut symptoms, and it's usually not random. It's driven by particular bacterial patterns in the microbiome. And 3 of the top genera affecting bloating are what we see here. So Rhinococcus, and this produces methane, and that often leads to slow bowels and pressure in the stomach. When it's high, it ferments fiber very aggressively, and it creates that full, tight pressure in the gut. When bacteroids are too high, that's the protein and fat fermentation, it leads to gas, and that produces that bloating that we feel after meals. Prevotella, when that's high, it's involved in carbohydrate fermentation, and we get bloating because it's fermenting carbohydrates too quickly. So even healthy foods like beans, lentils, and whole grains can trigger bloating for that reason. 20% of adults will experience constipation, and again, it's one of the most common gut complaints and strongly linked to these top 3 genera. So Rhinococcus, when it's high, will slow the bowels down, creating that slow, sluggish movement and harder stools. Bifidobacterium is responsible for low fiber breakdown when it's low, and it means that fiber isn't being broken down properly, and that can lead to dry, hard stools, bloating, and difficulty passing them. Faecalibacterium, then, when that's low, it means it's not producing enough butyrate, and butyrate is one of the short-chain fatty acids that keeps your gut lining healthy and your motility through your system smooth. So low levels of this one will release that slow, sluggish bowel effect, inflammation, and you'll get discomfort from that as well. Around 5% of adults are experiencing diarrhea at any given time. It's extremely common, with some people experiencing at least 1 episode a year. And the top 3 affecting diarrhea are Social, where it can cause urgency for some people. Clostridium, when that's high, creates that post-meal rushing to the bathroom feeling. And bacteroids, when they're high, it ferments too quickly, the food, and that releases the spasms in your gut and that feeling of urgency as well. Food sensitivities are on the rise from 20%, and most people don't realize they're driven by changes in the gut rather than intolerances to some foods that you're eating. It can be a mix of both. And the fecal bacterium, when that's low, flare-ups can come as a result of eating certain foods. And the eubacterium, when that's low, gives us a weak gut lining, and that can cause food triggers as well. And again, with the Social, this is linked to the high histamine related food sensitivities. So you might notice that you get headaches after eating certain foods, rashes, sneezing, itching, burning sensation in your ears can be related to this bacteria. In terms of children's gut health, this behaves very differently, their microbiome, and their gut bacteria are still developing, they're stabilizing, and they're learning how to work together. So a child's microbiome is going to have lower diversity. It will change rapidly as they grow, their diet changes, and then if they have any illness or antibiotics. It's more sensitive to inflammation, and their gut lining is still maturing and repairing as they age. And this is why children can often show stronger, faster, more reactive symptoms. from bloating and constipation to behavior change, sensory sensitivity for some children, and emotional swings as well, because they often don't have the words to describe their symptoms and how they're feeling, so they might act out and you might see it in their behavior. Key bacteria for children are Bifidobacterium, and that's important for supporting digestion, immunity, and reducing inflammation. When that's too low, we'll see constipation, eczema, food sensitivities, and frequent infections. It's supported by breast milk when children are babies, oats, banana, legumes, and fermented foods. Lactobacillus protects against infections and reduces tummy bugs. And if it's too low, we'll see recurrent colds and IBS type symptoms. And it's supported by the likes of yogurt, kefir, and fermented vegetables. Faecalibacterium is the major anti-inflammatory bacteria, and it's crucial for resilience in the gut for children. If it's too low, it can result in tummy pains, food reactivity, and low energy. And it's supported by fiber diversity and resistant starch from cooked and cooled potatoes, rice, and pasta. Previtola helps children digest fiber and plant foods. And if it's too high, it can result in gas, bloating, tummy discomfort, and especially if it's combined with a high sugar diet. But it's supported by a balanced fiber intake. Streptococcus is normal in small amounts, but it can overgrow from antibiotics, and it's connected to the oral gut connection, especially in children, and getting those throat and chest infections. So that's too high. We can also see gas, bloating, and tummy bugs as well. And it's supported by fermented foods and increasing fiber slowly. Common childhood symptoms and their microbiome links then. So with tummy pain, we normally see that connected to low Faecalibacterium and high Previtola. Constipation from low Bifidobacterium and low fiber breakdown. Frequent infections from low Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium. Food sensitivities from low Faecalibacterium and Eubacterium. Behavior and mood shifts from low Coccococcus, and eczema from low Bifidobacterium and low diversity. So now let's look at the next piece of the puzzle, how the gut talks to the brain and why changes in bacteria can influence mood, focus, behavior, and emotional regularity. Your gut and your brain are in constant conversation. They communicate through millions of nerve cells, chemical messengers, and the vagus nerve going from the base of your brain all the way down to your large intestine. And that's a direct line running through to your digestive system. When your gut is balanced, it sends calm, steady signals that support your mood, your focus, and your energy. But when it's inflamed, stressed, or out of balance, those signals change. And that's why gut issues show up as anxiety, brain fog, irritability, or low resilience. And supporting the gut is not just about digestion. It's about how clearly you think and how you feel on a day-to-day basis. And there's three genera that have a big influence, and that's the Faecalibacterium. When the levels of this are low, you're going to have higher inflammation, more anxiety, low mood, irritability, and poor stress tolerance. Bifidobacterium, when those low levels are there, you're going to have low mood, fatigue, poor resilience, and emotional reactivity. Lactobacillus, when that's low, there's higher anxiety, poor sleep, and that wired but tired feeling. So when you feel absolutely exhausted, but then you go to bed and you just can't sleep at all, that's from that feeling. If your gut brain is how your gut communicates, the gut health pyramid is how you support that communication and all of those important bacteria. And that's the reason why I created this pyramid. A lot of people start at the top with the supplements and the probiotics. But the first step and the base of everything is diversity, because your gut thrives on variety. Different colors, different plant foods, different fibers, and the more diversity, the more species of bacteria you'll have in your gut, the better resilience and digestion and mood and energy you have too. And I often see with people where they have the same really healthy breakfast, the same go-to sandwich, and then the same dinners that they're eating on repeat on a weekly basis. And yes, while they're really healthy meals, you're starving a lot of those really great bacteria because you're not getting those foods into your diet. So mixing it up, having a couple of different breakfasts, a couple of different lunch options, and a couple of dinners, and then rotating that cycle and building it up increases your diversity over time. Fiber is the next step because 80% of adults don't get the recommended 30 grams per day. Most people are averaging between 8 and 10 grams. But fiber is the primary fuel for your beneficial bacteria. They stabilize digestion, reduce inflammation, and support smoother motility through your system. Next is prebiotic food. So fiber is the fuel. The prebiotic foods are the fertilizer, and they feed the good bacteria and help them multiply. And you find them in foods like onions, garlic, leek, asparagus, bananas, and oats. Then we have probiotic foods, and these add beneficial bacteria into the gut. And they're fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and yogurts, and they help to restore balance and support digestion, but only once the other foundations are in place. And then we have supplements, and these are the boost, not the base. And they work best when steps 1 to 4 are already happening. Otherwise, you're just pouring expensive bacteria into a gut environment that isn't ready for them. And that's why sometimes you can be taking a probiotic and it's actually making your symptoms worse. So behind the scenes of testing, so we can see just how much your gut health affects you on a day-to-day. And here's the thing, you don't have to guess. Microbiome testing can give us a clear picture of what's happening in your gut. So we can look at what's working and what it can tell you. And microbiome testing doesn't just look at the good or the bad bacteria, it analyzes the entire ecosystem. And every sample goes through a detailed process to identify which genera are thriving, which are missing, and how balanced the gut really is. So we look at bacterial diversity, and if we see on the screen here, we can see 68%. And it tells us how many of the different bacterial species are present in your gut. And it's one of the strongest markers of long-term gut health. Ideally, we want we're as close to 100% as we can. But at 68%, a good foundation is present and we have room to go. And I often say sometimes the lower numbers we can work with. If they were higher numbers and you had symptoms like bloating and everything else, we'd have a bigger issue on our hands. We can see the key genera levels, so which ones are present, which are missing, and how they're contributing to their symptoms as well, and affecting your digestion, your immunity, or your mood. We also look at the bacteria that support vitamin B12 and vitamin BK. Because when these bacteria are low, your gut can't contribute to your vitamin supply. So you might be getting in these foods through your diet, which is great, but your gut then is not helping you to get the energy out of them, and that can have a knock-on effect to your effectiveness in your gut as well. And we see that a lot with people that are exercising at the gym and they're working really hard and they're not quite seeing the results in their strength improving or their cardiovascular. And it's often because they are missing the bacteria for these two vitamins. We can see the bacterial percentages as well. So your sample is compared to other healthy ranges, and the test checks then is something too high, like Bacteroides causing urgency and spasm, is something too low, like lactobacillus and poor digestion support, or is something missing like Eubacterium leading to a weak gut lining, and that's something I see quite often. And from all of this information, we can understand why your symptoms are happening and not just what they are. And it reveals those underlying issues. And when we have that information, we can then use targeted support, make changes that actually work, and make a difference quite quickly as well. So this is a screenshot of an actual sample, and we can see that their gut balance, so the balance of good and bad bacteria, is 47%. We'd ideally like that to be above 60% to have a good balance. The bacterial diversity is 55%. So of the 1,000 species that are checked, this person has 55% of them, which is low. And then their current nutritional status is at 57%. So again, a little bit on the low side, and we would look at that in detail of how we can improve that. So this is also great what we see on the portal when we get their sample. So we see what's already going well in your gut. So for example, with this person, we can see that they drink enough water to support their gut health, which is really important. They exercise regularly, and that's having a positive influence on their gut. They eat fruits and vegetables daily to get their fiber. Their microbiome strength, so their gut dynamics function, so they don't have constipation and the food moves well through their system. They are protected against allergies, which is fantastic. And then their sleep and state of mind is showing good numbers as well. So that means that they feel more restful, they feel more calmness. And then we see the microbiome weaknesses. So this person's immune system is a little bit on the low side and can be strengthened with more fiber. Their weight regulation is a bit of an issue and can be improved with less stress and improving their microbiome. And then they have some harmful bacteria that can be reduced with fermented foods. So the harmful bacteria does play a purpose, but we don't want to keep that at quite a low level. Sometimes some people can be way off the chart, and that's contributing to their symptoms. So we want to keep that balanced under the recommended levels. So we can see the genera then for this person. Cristinella and Akkermansia are weight dominant for this person. Lactobacillus is showing there, the Rheumococcus, the Bifidobacterium, the Eubacterium, and the Faecalibacterium, and Bacteroides as well. So that gives us that information that we can use to personalize a plan for this person. We can see then the proportion of harmful bacteria. So they have too much of this particular bacteria. We would like that under 5%, and this person has over 15%. Their mucosal barrier and immunity is affected with only 14% of that bacteria. So we need to work on that. The vitamin K bacteria that produce that in the gut is also very low, only 20% present. Their weight regulation. So this person like that, they're working out, they're eating healthy, but their weight has been massively impacted by a lot of bacteria that are missing in their gut. So they only have 33% of the bacteria that support them having a lean, healthy body. And vitamin B12 production is only at 33%. So again, that's going to impact getting fitter and feeling healthier overall. And we can see that repeated again here, where some of these measures then are having an impact on those other aspects of the goals for the person. And then what's great as well, then we can see hints and tips about what's going to make the biggest changes. So for this person, the top 3 foods that will help to influence their microbiome are navy or white beans, having them a couple of times a week, almonds 2 to 3 times, and apples 1 to 2 times. So it means that we can start off with small, sustainable changes if we want, or we can go into the fuller detail and get more results and reduce down those symptoms more quickly if we want to as well. And then we have the personal microbiome coach. So this is on your portal and you have lifetime access to this. So you can chat to the coach about your nutrition, your symptoms, your lifestyle, and your gut summary. And then you can compare samples if you have multiple. And you can ask your coach to explain your symptoms for you, to explain your results on the microbiome test. And you can even do things like set priorities of what you need to do on a week by week basis. And they can do meal plans, and they can do shopping lists as well, and recipes, all of that. So it's a really fantastic tool to have as part of the process. In terms of what the process actually looks like, so a kit is sent to your home and you complete the sample, and it's just a sample of the size of a grain of rice. That's sent off to the lab and the analysis is completed and the microbiome details from that sample are collected. You receive your report on the portal and you can see that clarity and understanding of your microbiome and what's contributing to your symptoms. We then have a consultation to discuss and we review your microbiome results alongside your symptoms and put it all into context for you. You then have the choice of continuing on with your AI coach or a one-to-one option if you wanted to work with me. And you can set up your plan for you and your microbiome and on whichever option suits you best. So the test will explore the different organisms that are in your microbiome, see where the diversity lies, and gives us questions that we can answer in terms of your health for you. It can't give you a diagnosis, and it can't give you the cause of a symptom without that correlation with an expert like myself or somebody else. And then behind the scenes of testing, so results can improve really quickly. Microbiome can change fast. Because your gut bacteria respond to all of these different elements, we can see changes in as quick as 4 to 12 weeks, as well as a result of implementing changes. So stress is one of the biggest disruptors to the gut. So lowering stress can reduce cortisol and calm inflammation, and that allows the beneficial bacteria to grow. So even simple daily changes like walking, breath work, more movement can create visible changes in your results. Sleep as well increases inflammation. So if you have better sleep, you will have better bacteria, and that's on a loop as well. So when you work on your microbiome, you will find that you sleep better, and when you sleep better, they support your microbiome. And in terms of nutrition, so this is the fastest lever to improving your microbiome, increasing that fiber and that diversity, adding in the prebiotic foods and the probiotics, that can change your microbiome in as little as 2 to 4 weeks. And it improves your diversity, and then your symptoms then reduce quite quickly in terms of bloating, constipation, and sensitivities. Hormones and gut bacteria are linked to each other as well. So supporting your gut supports your hormones as well. And we can see change then on motility. So where it regulates itself, you have less inflammation, better energy, better mood, and less sensitivity to foods as well. And lifestyle is really important. So looking at movement, hydration, getting outdoors, all of that can shape your microbiome as well, improving that overall bacterial balance. And the changes don't need to be big. It's the consistency that really matters and pays off as well. And that's what contributes to your microbiome changing for you. So the microbiome AI coach on the portal, that can help you reduce all of these in turn as well. So it'll give you tips and recommendations that you can do and bring everything all together for you. It translates those results and those actions that fit into your real life, whether you're dealing with stress-related bloating or sleep-related cravings or hormone shifts. The AI coach can actually help you understand what's happening and make small changes that make a big difference. Or if you prefer the personalized approach, one-to-one coaching gives you the depth, the nuance, and the human insight that the app can't replicate, as fantastic as it is. And together we look at how all of these measures can fit in together, how we can make small changes, and how we can shape your gut to meet your goals that you want. And we build a plan that fits with your real life. You get tailored guidance, accountability, and a clear roadmap that evolves as your microbiome, and your gut does. So thank you for joining the webinar today, whether you joined live or you're watching the recording. It was great to have you with me. In terms of next steps, feel free to book a free discovery call. You can use that QR code or go onto my website. Or if you would like to purchase a test directly, you can do that. And if somebody has referred you, they may have a link that you can get a discount code. If you have any questions following this, feel free to email me and I will be happy to answer them for you. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you. Bye.